let's get into it. Hey besties, welcome back or welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're talking about all of my 5-star reads at the moment and all the books that I desperately wish that I could read again for the first time. Like, I will forever recommend these books to anyone and everyone that I know. That's how much I love them. So let's get into it. I don't even know where to start. Okay, so the first book that I have to start with is literally anything by Emily Henry. I only have Happy Place because I gave out all the other books that I have. Like, I have Beach Read, Funny Story, and I gave them out to my family to read. So that just goes to show you that I will definitely recommend any of Emily Henry's books to literally anyone and everyone because they're just so good. No one writes banter like Emily Henry writes banter. She's just so good at creating a really funny and also always has like deeper topics to it that just tug on your heartstrings and like you feel seen when you read her books, you know what I mean? So I just love an Emily Henry book and I will eat it up every single time. I think if I had to, if like someone held me at gunpoint and I had to rank Emily Henry books, I feel like I would say Beach Read is my top like #1 Emily Henry book. That is my favorite book of hers. And then Funny Story is probably my second. And then maybe Book Lovers, which is honestly underrated. I feel like not enough people hype up Book Lovers, but that book was also really, really good. So we have Book Lovers and then probably Happy Place and then People Meet on Vacation. But I genuinely, like, all of her books are 5-star reads for me. Like, I love them so much. So they're all a 5-star in my head. I enjoyed every single book immensely. So definitely anything by Emily Henry is automatically a 5 or 6-star read for me. And I would definitely recommend, if you have not read her books, go pick them up. They're so good. Next up is another romance, and that is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I loved this book so much. Not only is it a great romance book, but it also just is a great book for anyone in your 20s, anyone who has been through life. Like, literally this book is for anyone and everyone, especially the topics of just like life and timing and love and grief. This book is just so beautiful and I cried at the end. It's just so good, and I would definitely recommend reading it if you have not already. Basically, this book follows Clementine, who goes to live in her aunt's old apartment because her aunt had died, and she goes to live in this apartment and she meets a man there and she's like, what are you doing here? So it's like forced proximity roommate trope, but the only problem is he exists 7 years in the past. So it has to do with like timing and love and life, and it's just really good.
Look what I got for you. For your class.
Wait, I love that. That's so cute.
Isn't that cute?
Okay.
Those are cute.
They are cute.
So whatever one you don't use, I'll use. So you got this one or the purple one?
I kind of want the purple one.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. And similar to Emily Henry, this book also, even though it is a romance book, it has deeper topics that just tug at your heartstrings and make you feel seen, and just, it's just such a beautiful story, and you have to read it if you have not already. And then next up is the Natural series. I love the series. If you like true crime, murder, mystery type of book, you would absolutely eat this book up. I love Jennifer Lynn Barnes' writing. It's so easy to get through. It's a YA series. And when I read this, I was in a reading slump and it took me out of it because it's just easy to get immersed in this world. Basically, it follows a group of teens who each have like special abilities. It's not really like superpowers, but they're like really good at certain things. Like Cassie's really good at reading people. If you ever watch the show Psych, it kind of like gives me those vibes. And then she ends up working with the FBI, and it's a group of teens basically helping the FBI solve different cold cases. And the series just goes on from there. There's a lot more like mystery that comes into it and pieces that get put together. I don't want to spoil anything, so yeah, I will leave you with that. But yeah, definitely if you want like a good fall murder, crime, mystery, but also like YA, and you have a little bit of romance in the series too, like I would definitely pick this book up. It's so good. And then next up we have the Throne of Glass series. I started this book in high school. I read the first one in high school, and then I am now continuing on with the series and trying to finish it up. I'm currently on the Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms tandem read, so I've been making my way through the series. One of my favorite series of all time. It's just such an epic series. The story is so good. Like, I feel like out of all Sarah J Maas's books, this series is one of her best like stories. Like, this is a story. Like, you know how I heard, I was like, this is a movie that feels like a movie. Like, this is a series that feels like a series. Like, it just has an epic storyline, and the characters, the found family, it's just so good. And like I said, I read the first book in high school, so this was like the first fantasy series that like I felt so immersed into and connected with. So I feel like that's why this series will just forever hold a special place in my heart for me, and just I have like so much nostalgia with the series too, and that's part of why I will probably never shut up about the series. It's so good. The main character in the series is just so fun to follow along with because she's a smart female main character. Like, she's strong but also multifaceted. Like, she's just a girl. She likes flowers and chocolates, but she's also an assassin, and just like the epicness of the story is so good. And I love reading about a smart character who thinks ahead. Similar to Kaz in Six of Crows, this female main character, they'll be in a situation like in a pickle, and you're like, how are they gonna get out of this? And then she's like, oh, like, well, I thought ahead and did this and that. Like, I love when books have that. I don't know if you know what I mean, but I just love reading about a smart character who thinks ahead and is just really clever. You need to read the series if you have not already. The covers also, the new covers, are so beautiful, so gorgeous, absolutely obsessed. And if you're looking for just like a good fantasy series with a little bit of romance mixed in, this is the one for you. And then if you're looking for a romance series or a fantasy romance that leans more on the romance rather than the fantasy, then the XIII series is the perfect one for you. This book series is just so good. It's so good. Going into the series, I just was unprepared for how emotionally connected and emotionally invested I would get in all these characters, like the found family, the fantasy, the romance, the love story in it, but also the female main characters. Like all of the characters in the series are just so admirable and it's just so beautiful. It's such a beautiful series, and all the things like the characters go through, especially in A Court of Mist and Fury, which is my favorite book of the series, and then A Court of Silver Flames, like the character development, like seeing these women go from like heartbroken and dealing with trauma to like healing from that and finding their power and gaining their strength. It's just so beautiful to read about and just going along that journey with them. I just love the series so much, and I hate that sometimes it's like, oh yeah, it's a spicy read, and yeah, like it has spicy scenes in it, but at its core, like the series is just a very beautiful series. And I know that the series is really hyped up, but it's hyped up for a reason. Like it's just good. It's accurately hyped. Love the series. I love the romance that's in it, and it's just so good. It's so good, and I don't want to like spoil anything, but just know that it's a beautiful series. It's got the romance, it's got the fantasy, the found family, all the tropes that we know and love. Like it's just so good, and I'm just so excited for any new books in the series. I'm literally like gnawing at the bars of my enclosure for the next book, which I hope follows Elaine and Azriel. I know that there's a lot of like Elaine haters, but I've always been an Elaine stan. Love that girly, and I'm excited to like get her point of view and see what like the love story is, like who her love interest is, who Azriel's love interest is. Like I'm really intrigued to know that whole story, and I'm just really excited to continue on with the series because it's just so good. Next up is a 5-star read that I put off reading for so long, and I don't know why I didn't pick up this sooner. Binding 13. I am so emotionally invested and emotionally connected to all these characters now. Like this series is just so beautiful. Definitely check the trigger warnings before picking this book up because it does deal with a lot of emotionally heavy topics, so definitely look at that before picking up this book. But this book is just so beautiful, and Shannon and Johnny just have my whole heart. Like their love story is so just sweet and wholesome and beautiful, and the way that they take care of each other is just so sweet. Like Shannon goes through a lot in this book, and just seeing the way like Johnny takes care of her, and it's just so beautiful. And I don't want to share anything more about this book. Like for the most part, you can go into it blind. Like I said, check the trigger warnings beforehand, but it's just such a cozy series. It takes place in Ireland, and it's just like this book feels like a cozy rainy day, like drinking a hot chocolate or something. Like it just is so cozy and so beautiful and comforting. And yeah, love this book, and I can't believe I didn't pick it up sooner, so definitely go read this if you haven't already. This book will always just hold a special place in my heart, and I will say, when you reach the end of this book, like, you have to have the next book on standby because you just have to. I don't know how people like waited until the next book came out to read the next book, so I'm really looking forward to continuing on with the series and seeing what happens, and I just love them. Next up is a romance book that I literally hear no one talk about, but I ate this book up. On the level that I love Emily Henry, like this book was so good. It's The Rom-Commers by Catherine Center. I feel like Catherine Center is like one of my new favorite authors because I've read The Bodyguard by her, and I don't know if I read a different book from her too, but The Bodyguard I gave 5 stars. And The Rom-Commers is just like one of my favorite romance books and like favorite rom-coms in general, especially by Catherine Center. Like it's definitely one of my favorites. Like laughing out loud, giggling, kicking your feet, solid banter, solid romance, and just a really fun story. The Rom-Commers was so good. This book follows Emma, who wants to be a screenwriter, and she's taking care of her dad, and when she gets the chance to rewrite a script from a famous screenwriter, Charlie Yates, her like screenwriting hero, she jumps at the chance. But as they say, don't meet your heroes. Emma moves to LA for 6 weeks for this writing gig, only to find out that Charlie Yates doesn't want to write with anyone, and he's a very grumpy character. He doesn't believe in love, and he has to write a love story. So Emma sets out to convince him that love stories matter. She wants to get him on the rom-com bandwagon and help him fix up and rewrite this romantic comedy in a romantic comedy book. So it's so fun, and I just ate this book up. The premise felt really fresh and like unlike other rom-coms, but also like still has all the tropes that we know and love. Next up, the Infernal Devices series. This series just tugs at my heartstrings, will always hold such a special place in my heart. This series is an urban fantasy that takes place in Victorian London. Like this book series feels like a rainy, cozy day, foggy London, like type of vibe, I guess, if that makes sense. You have these shadow hunters who kill demons. There's like a mystery element to it, the urban fantasy, and a little bit of romance in it too. There is a love triangle in the series, but it's like the only acceptable love triangle that I've ever read. You just fall so in love with all these characters and just want them to be okay. Like reading this book series feels so cozy, but also has like that feeling of like impending heartbreak and impending doom. It just has that vibe to it, but it's also like cozy at the same time. And the epilogue? the epilogue. I will like randomly think about the epilogue at like random moments and just want to cry because I usually don't even read the epilogue in books. I always find it kind of boring. I usually skip it, but this book, I jumped to the epilogue and was not prepared for the ending of this book. All three main characters in the series you're just gonna fall so in love with and just root for them. I just can't explain like the coziness and just like the emotional attachment I have to these characters. Like I love this book series so much and I will never shut up about the series. So those are all my 5 6-star reads that I desperately wish I could read again for the first time. Like I love them so much and will recommend them to literally anyone and everyone I know. I love them so much, and if you haven't read any of these books yet, go read them. And I know that most of these are probably already hyped up, but they're popular for a reason, they're hyped up for a reason, and just take this as confirmation that they are really, really good books. And that kind of like is my book taste, romance, fantasy, that's really all I read. But yeah, I highly enjoyed them all, and let me know your 5-star reads in the comments below. I love you guys so much, and I will catch you in the next one. Love you besties, bye.